Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today's topic is long division and fraction to decimal conversions and decimal to fraction conversions. That's what this little symbol here means. It means I'm going from fractions to decimals and from decimals to fractions. We're going to do it both ways today. So on the next blank page in your notebook, go ahead and put your heading and the objective. Today's objective is I can use long division. I'm going to make a little note here. It's long division, not partial quotient. Partial quotient is when you go like this and you have that little tail coming off the end, and I think that's what you guys are most comfortable with. Long division is different, and I will show you today how to do that long division. But our objective is I can use long division to turn fractions into decimals, and I can turn rational decimal numbers into fractions. A quick reminder, a rational decimal number is a decimal that repeats or terminates. You should know this from the packet that you did the other day, guys. Um, Repeat is a decimal that goes on and on and on in the same pattern, like 0.33333. Terminate means it ends. So, for example, 1.6, it just ends. So we are going to be turning rational decimal numbers into fractions. On the same page, go ahead and write this quick review of long division. And I like to use this little sentence, does McDonald's serve burgers, to help me remember the steps for long division. Each word represents one of the steps of long division. The D in does goes with divide, the M in McDonald's goes with multiply, serve goes with subtract, and burgers goes with bring down. And we're going to work through an example of each of these steps so that you can see what it actually looks like in a problem. Go to the next page of your notebook now for this section and put the heading Turning a Fraction to a Decimal. Don't forget your page number and your date. I find that the biggest thing students struggle with when they're turning fractions to a decimal is that they don't put the numbers in the right place. Don't put the partial quotient bar. Guys, if you put it, erase it. A lot of students looking at this problem will say, okay, well, it's going to be 8 divided by 6. I should probably take a moment at this time to mention that your fraction bar right there tells you that this is a division problem. All fractions can be thought of as division problems. If I take the little bar and kind of move it over, and then I have a number on top and a number on bottom, look at that, I have a division symbol. So 6/8 is actually just 6 divided by 8. So back to what I was saying earlier. A lot of students put the numbers in the wrong place. They'll put 8 inside what I call the house because they say that's the biggest number, that's where my bigger number goes. But that is not always true, and it is especially not true when you're dealing with fractions. I like to think of this, what number gets in the house first. If I'm looking at this fraction, I'm going to think like these numbers, 6 and 8, are racing to get into this house. Maybe it's snowing outside or it's raining and they don't want to be outside. So whichever number I say first, 6/8, I said the 6 first. So 6 beats 8 into the house right there, and 6 gets inside the house, leaving 8 out in the cold. Not very nice of 6, but that's how we're going to think of it. Okay, I would write down the letters from our little memory device back here. Does McDonald's serve burgers? Write down the letters on the side of your paper. Does McDonald's serve burgers? To help us through this process of the long division, because that's going to be our reminder. Okay, so our first step is D, which is divide. And you need to ask yourself, does 8 go into 6? It doesn't. Okay, you can't fit any groups of 8 into 6. So I'm going to put a little placeholder 0 there. I like to put a line through my placeholder zeros. Why? Not sure, it just makes me happy. And then the M step, multiply 0 times 8. Well, that's going to be 0. I'm going to put that under my 6. Subtract, I'm going to put a subtraction symbol. 6 minus 0 is 6. And then bring down is probably the step that confuses people the most. I'm going to bring down another number, but I don't have any other numbers here. Okay, all I have is 6. You may remember from some time in your distant past that you can take any number, add a decimal point and a 0, and it doesn't change the value of that number. So that's what we're going to do. We didn't have any numbers to bring down, so we're going to make one. Add a decimal point and a 0, and it's the exact same thing as 6. 6.0 and 6 are the same number. We're going to bring that 0 down here, and now I have 60. Now, guys, it's just a matter of repeating the process. Divide. Does 8 go into 60? It does. It goes in 7 times, and you might have to do some scratch work off on the side to get that. Then I multiply. 7 times 8 gives me 56. Subtract the minus. I'm left with 4. I have to make my page a little bigger because I write too big. And then bring down. Uh-oh, there's no more numbers to bring down. I need to add another 0 and bring that down. Be careful, I have a lot of people that try and add the zeros up here. This is where your answer goes. Okay, don't put any zeros where your answer goes unless they're from your division. Okay, when you're adding decimal points and zeros, they go in here. So we bring that 0 down and try not to go at a slant like I did because that can get you really messed up. Ask yourself again, D, does 8 divide into 40? It does. 8 goes into 40 5 times. And then I multiply. 5 times 8 is 40. Subtract. 40 minus 40 is 0. And that right there, folks, when you do this subtract step and you end up with 0, that is what you're looking for. That is your signal, hey, I am done with the problem. I don't need to keep bringing down zeros. I am finished. I then look at my answer. The decimal point that I have here gets brought straight up here, and I'm left with 0.75 as my answer. Okay, so 6 over 8 as a fraction can be turned into a decimal 0.75 by using long division with the steps divide, multiply, subtract, and bring down. Okay, there are a couple special cases here when you're dealing with fractions. And I actually think these patterns that we're going to look at are really kind of cool. There's 2 different patterns we're going to examine, and one is dividing by 9 because something special happens there, and another is dividing by 11. We'll get there in just a minute. So I think you should still have room on this same page. Let's go ahead and put this special case on that same page that you did turning a fraction to a decimal. And we're going to look at this 7/9 fraction. So I'm going to go ahead and do the long division for you on this one so we can work through it together. And on the next one, I think I'm going to have you try it on your own. So when I need to turn this fraction into a decimal, I do my numerator divided by my denominator. So that's going to be 7 that gets inside the house, and my denominator that's left out in the cold is 9. Does 9 go into 7? Oh, I'm going to write my little letters. D, M, S, B. Okay. Does 9 go into 7? It doesn't. I'll put a little placeholder 0 there. That was really funky. Okay. And then 0 times 9 is 0. Subtract 7. I have nothing to bring down, so I need to add a decimal point and another 0, so I can bring that 0 down right here. And then I go through the steps again. Divide. Does 9 go into 70? It does. It goes in 7 times. Multiply. 7 times 9 is 63. Subtract and bring down. I don't have anything to bring down, so I'm going to add another 0 and bring it down, giving me 70. But hey, wait a second. I got 70 last time, and I got 70, or essentially 70, 70, the time before. I think I'm just going to keep getting 70, which means that my answers up here are just going to keep being 7. So if I move my decimal point up, right here, I have 0.777 dot 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 going on and on and on. I can write that 0.7 repeating. Okay, any number divided by 9 is going to be whatever your numerator was repeated. So 3 over 9 is going to be 0.3 repeating. Okay, it's kind of a neat little pattern that you can figure out. Okay, let's move on to the next one, and I want you guys to do this long division all by yourself. I will do the initial setup for you though, just because I'm feeling very nice. There's another cool thing to notice when we divide by 11. So if we have 7/11ths now, 7 is going to get in the house first, 11 is left on the outside. Now, put that in your notebook and go ahead and take a minute to see if you can figure out what the cool thing about dividing by 11 is. Do your long division and come up with your answer. I'm going to ask you a little later on what your answer was. I'm not going to show it to you right now. But pause the video, work it out, and then we'll talk about it in class tomorrow. Let's go to the next page in your notebook, and we're going to talk briefly about turning decimals into fractions. We've done a lot of work on fractions to decimals, and now we're going to do decimals into fractions. It's actually a lot easier, okay? So what you need to do, write this heading down on that next page. And the word part of this explanation might be a little confusing, but once we do one, you're going to see how simple it is. So what to do to turn a decimal into fraction, you place the decimal part of your number over the appropriate multiple of 10, 10, 100, 1000, etc., and then simplify. You might be thinking to yourself, what, Mrs. Ott? I have no idea what you're talking about. And that's okay, because we're going to go through an example. If I have 3.65, I'm going to look for the decimal part of my number, which is 0.65. And then I'm going to put that 0.65 in a fraction over, and then I have to decide, is it 10, 100, 1000, etc. Well, just think about your place values, guys. How far out does your decimal go? 6 is in the tenths place, so 5 is in the hundredths place. That's your hint. That tells you what number goes on the bottom. It's in the hundredths place, so it's over 100. I think these are going to be pretty simple for you guys because I'm almost positive you've done things like this before. We then have this whole number left out in front, and that becomes the whole number of our fraction. Last thing to do is simplify. I need to simplify this 65 over 100. I know that they can both be divided by 5, so let's do that to simplify. Divided by 5, which leaves us 20 on the bottom, and on the top it gives us 1, 3. So 13 over 20ths. Okay, that's as simple as I can get, so my final answer is 3 and 13 20ths. All right? I have a couple more that I want you to try on your own. These two questions, see if you can figure them out in your notebook. Show me the work. And pause the video, and I'll pop the answers up once you hit play. Pause the video in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause the video. All right, guys, here are your answers, 6.5 and 3 over 250. If you got one of these answers, 12 over 1,000 or 6 over 500 or 6 and 5/10, you forgot to simplify. You can't forget to simplify, okay? Let's see, I've got about 45 seconds left, so I don't think we are going to get to these questions, but that's okay. We'll talk about them in class tomorrow. What I'd like you to do to turn in this assignment is go to this problem you did here, where you did 7 divided by 11 and I didn't give you the answer. I want you in Edmodo, when you turn in this homework, to explain what your answer was and what the pattern is for dividing by 11. Just like there was a pattern for dividing by 9, it was just the numerator repeated, there is a pattern for dividing by 11. want you to figure out what that is and tell me when you turn in this homework on Edmodo. Have a great night, guys. Bye-bye.